What was the worst thing a doctor has ever said to you? You've got cancer. Again? We will continue this procedure once your erection subsides. Me, standing with my shirt off so doctor can look at a sebaceous cyst on my back. Are you stabbing me? Doctor, cutting the cyst open without having said anything. Just a little. Y'all likely never have kids. I was 14 and had never really had a period. I ended up having PCOS, and the only real symptoms for me was irregular period. BTW, I'm in my 40s and have 2 kids. I'm lucky I didn't end up being a teen mom. I made the choice to take birth control pills despite always kinda wondering if it wasn't worth the expense. Asshole. My mom fell and hit her face on the pavement. Went to the ER and they ordered a CT scan. Doctor came back and said how long have to had cancer. My mom never had cancer. He was so sure she had cancer and it had metastasized to her brain. Made an appointment with an oncologist. She didn't have cancer, but it was a shitty week between appointments and results. Doctor got reassigned, but hopefully he was fired. Went to the ER for acute abdominal pain. Was told by the male doctor I'm female that it was all in my head. I asked for a different doctor and was then admitted to the hospital and had abdominal surgery a couple of days later. It was to me, but about me while the oral surgeon was speaking to a resident now. I almost lost his tooth into his sinus cavity, but I managed to save it. If only just. Followed by uproarious laughter. Except that was the first I had heard of the many complications I would go on to from that procedure. I don't believe you. I don't think there's anything we can do for your son. Turns out he was wrong. Turns out he was behind the times, and there were modern treatments that had not been tried that did help. Turns out my son is doing fine now, no thanks to your erroneous quick judgment and mistaken treatment plan. In July 2021, I dealt with a bad bout of anxiety. I always had anxiety, but never to the extent that I'd get off my couch and go into a severe panic attack. For the first time, I went to the doctor and got some medication for it. Gradually things got better. But I couldn't have sex with my husband without it being a trigger for a panic attack. My husband has only ever been kind to me. Absolutely amazing man. But something about sex I had lost all desire to have, when I used to be the one with the higher sex drive. During one of the monthly checkups, I decided to bring up my concern to my female doctor. To which he said, you know, sometimes you just have to let him have it even if you don't want it. I never went back. Couldn't keep refilling my medication either due to it. I'm doing way better now, except I have high blood pressure. We ran some tests with my new doctor a few months ago. Found nothing wrong, and she told me that she's concerned that my anxiety is the cause of it. She put me on different anxiety medication and within 3 weeks, my blood pressure went down 20 points. So yeah, to the doctor that refused to try new anxiety medication and instead told me to have sex when I mentally couldn't take it, screw you. I started having irregular menstrual cycles and went to my GYN. They wouldn't listen to me and kept prescribing me things without doing any tests. So I went to my primary so that I can get a referral for some ultrasounds. My doctor said you're probably pregnant. I'm not even the doctor you're supposed to see for these type of things, but I'm going to take you because I have to. You're probably pregnant. After that she made me take a pregnancy test that I knew would be negative. When it came back negative she looked at me and said well, I'll write you a referral for that ultrasound. I never went back to her again. A male consultant in a suit and tie strolled in and said, you have no excuse not to be on hormonal birth control. Women's health everyone. When my vasectomy failed and my wife got pregnant, doctor asked if me, are you sure it's yours? 100 guarantee he never asked that question again. To my ma'am, and strictly speaking not that bad. Night before I was born, late 70s, doctor comes in, examines her and says I think you're having twins. First time the subject was mentioned. Another doctor came in and said it's only the one. They were taking bets as to how many would appear and they had 2 cots prepared. In the end it was just me. A doctor said my son had a bad heart and could die at any moment due to a bad heart. He was wrong. Took 20 years off my life during the 3 months until I got an accurate diagnosis. I went to my doc as a teen to discuss my options for anxiety management. You have 2 options. Take one medication that makes you normal, referring to an SRI, or take one that makes you go do you, rolling his eyes in the back of his head, tongue sticking out, etc., in reference to a medication like Ativan. It was so obscene and weird. Y'all probably just be in pain for the rest of your life. I was 18. He was then utterly confused as to why I burst into tears in his office. Took another 6 years after that to get diagnosed with fibromyalgia, and then another year to find a doctor who was actually interested in helping me. Are you crying or laughing? I was screaming in pain just a second ago, so of course there's a chance I was laughing. Goddamn, look at them titties. I'm a guy. Well, something isn't quite normal, but we don't know what. Then they left the room and appointment was over. This was after a full day of tests on my heart. No follow-up, no recommendations, nothing.